And welcome back to Washington Commanders Insider. Today, we are talking about what NFL insider Jeremy Fowler had to say about the Washington Commanders not worrying about Jayden Daniels taking a year two slump. We're also going to be talking about Terry McLaurin and his contract extension and how that could impact the Washington Commanders this season. And so before we go ahead and we jump into it, I first want to remind you to hit that subscribe button, just like Jayden Daniels is going to be hitting Terry McLaurin, Deebo Samuel, Zach Ertz, Jalen Lane, and many others for multiple touchdowns this upcoming season. And so in exchange for hitting that subscribe button, I'm going to give you nothing but daily content around the Washington Commanders. And so make sure that you hit that like, you hit that subscribe, and you join the Washington Commanders Insider family as we talk nothing but Washington Commanders football. And so with that being said, let's go ahead. Let's jump into it as we are talking about what NFL insider Jeremy Fowler had to say about the Washington Commanders. And so if you want to go check this out, you can head over to YouTube. This was a segment that was on ESPN here today. And it is a 4-minute segment here where Jeremy Fowler is talking about 4 quarterbacks heading into their second year. And so he talks about Jayden Daniels. He talks about Caleb Williams. He's also talking about Drake May and Bo Nix. And so he talks a little bit about each quarterback and how they're looking going into year two. And so it's a 4-minute clip. If you want to see what he had to say about the Washington Commanders, it starts at 1:05. And he starts off by saying that the Washington Commanders are not worried about Jayden Daniels headed to a year two slump. And so the first thing that he mentions within this video is he talks about how Jayden Daniels is coming in at 5 a.m. and putting in the hours. And so he says that's the first reason why the Washington Commanders are not worried about Jayden Daniels taking a year two slump because he's putting in the work. And next, he talks about how Jayden Daniels and Deebo Samuel have got off to a hot start. And so I guess looking pretty good thus far in the mandatory mini camps and stuff like that. And he just talked about that, look, with Deebo Samuel, this is a guy that is going to be able to get the easy yards, the screens, the running back plays over the middle. So essentially what we've been talking about with Deebo Samuel and how I think he's going to impact this team with getting a lot of yak, which is yards after catch, and just being a player that is going to be a playmaker once you just drop back and hit him within that first 2 to 5 yard area and let him go to work. And so talked a little bit about that just for a second. And so next, he talks about Terry McLaurin and how this could be something that would impact the Commanders. And he says that at this point in time, that Terry McLaurin is not happy with where things are from a contract extension, still have a couple weeks to make progress, and they need to get McLaurin there at camp. And so talking about getting him over to work with Jayden Daniels and this offense. And so let's back up and let's start with the first couple points here. And so I like the fact that he's talking about Jayden Daniels and he's talking about the work ethic. I think that that is one of the things that we have constantly heard about Jayden Daniels from several different, coaches or players that talk about him. They always talk about the work ethic. And what I like about Jayden Daniels is as much success as he had in year one, you would think that the way he's approaching things that he didn't do anything in year one. And so I love the fact that Jayden Daniels has come in and he's taken this type of ownership and just knowing what is coming this next season and the fact that he is putting in this work and maybe even more work. Obviously, I'm not in the facility, but it sounds like that's the type of energy that Jayden Daniels is giving off. And so I love that as point number one as to why he could avoid the sophomore slump. And then number two, when you're talking about just Deebo Samuel and going back to that point, I just love the fact that he says that he is off to a hot start here with Deebo Samuel, because I think that that connection is going to be super important. I think that Deebo Samuel is going to really come back from a tough year last year with the San Francisco 49ers. And I think that you're going to see a rejuvenated Deebo Samuel. And I think that what Deebo Samuel is going to realize is that because of the versatility that's around him with this offense, and just also to what Jayden Daniels can do in the pocket, outside of the pocket, and the way that he can get you on the run and just buy you some time to just get to a spot, I think that that is going to unlock not only Deebo Samuel, but I think it's going to unlock our receivers in general here. And so I do love the fact that they're off to a hot start. And I think that getting this rapport is going to be everything. And I think in every area of the football team, not just on the offensive end, but I think defensively as well. When you're talking about an 11-man unit that must really be as one, I think that that's where it starts in the training camps, and also to the mandatory camps, all the stuff like that. You need to be on the same page. And so the fact that you have a receiver that is going to play a big part here, and then also too, we talked a little bit defensively and how that fit's going to look. I like where the Washington Commanders are trending as a team. Let's see what happens as training camp starts and we get into the preseason. But next, going into this last point about Terry McLaurin. And so, look, this is two insiders that have talked about this. And so we talked about this with Adam Schefter talking about it. And then now too with Jeremy Fowler, pretty much, they're saying the same thing here, that Terry McLaurin is unhappy where things are at. But, the great thing is that Terry McLaurin has not come out and said anything. The organization hasn't come out and said anything. The last time that we saw Dan Quinn, he's talking positive about it. The players are talking positive about it. And I do think that there's something that is going to get done here with Terry McLaurin. And I think that what it comes down to is that the point that he makes, and I'm talking about Jeremy Fowler, about Terry McLaurin needing to be there, I'm right there with him. I think that the quicker that you get a deal done, the better off it is, because the Commanders are going to take every team's best shot. There is going to be no, hey, who are the Washington Commanders this year? No. Everybody knows who the Washington Commanders are. They know what they have at the quarterback position. Everybody knows what they have done in the offseason. And so there is going to be no surprise there. So you're going to get everybody's best shot. You're going to be on national television a lot more. We talked about the fact that they're going to be on Hard Knocks. They're going to be traveling to go play a game, overseas or whatnot. And so, look, this is a team that is going to have to be locked in. And to be all the way locked in means that you have all your players taken care of. Everybody's there from day one. You're building the chemistry, and you're starting to gear up for what you're going to face out there. Because trust me, especially on the offensive end, what worked last season for the Commanders, look, they're going to have to definitely gear up some more, because you're not going to just run out there and run no huddles and things like that. You are going to have to mix it up between, the no huddle and huddling up. And so the tempo is going to have to change. With Jayden Daniels, I think that he's already showing that he's orchestrating the offense already at a high level. His processing speed is up there too as well. I cannot wait to see what the checks are going to look like at the line of scrimmage, and how he's going to literally be going back and forth with the defense as far as playing a chess game out there. And so I can't wait to see that on display. And I just think that when you get 17 in the building, that actually is the key for maybe the entirety of the offense when you're talking about the receiving game. Because look, even if Terry McLaurin doesn't have the type of productivity that he had the last 5 seasons, and I'm talking about having 1,000 yards, which I do anticipate he's going to get to 1,000. I really do. But if he were to go anywhere from 800 to 1,000, I think that still would be enough for this team to take another step, because that would indicate to me that defenses are trying to stop Terry McLaurin. But in doing so, you've really opened it up for other players. And honestly speaking, I think it's going to be even tougher to guard Terry McLaurin. And I think that having him along with Deebo Samuel, that duo is going to be tough, and it's going to open up a lot of stuff, whether it's for Zach Ertz, Austin Eckler, any of these running backs coming out of the backfield, Luke McCaffrey. I think that Jalen Lane, like anybody that we've talked about at the wide receiver position, they are going to see a lot more open field, and just it's going to be tougher to cover those guys, but you need to have 17 out there. And so I think that minimizing the distraction, taking care of Terry McLaurin is going to be huge, especially if you want Jayden Daniels to be ready to go here in year 2 and to avoid the sophomore slump. And so, anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking. Do you agree here with our insider in saying that, look, he is focused also to this hot start with Deebo Samuel? These are a couple things that are going to help Jayden Daniels as far as avoiding the year two slump. And then one more thing that I wanted to add before we jump out of here is how about the additions around on the offense with the offensive line? And then also, too, you got to think about what we did at the running back position in bringing in Ja'Cory Crosky-Barrett, the wide receiver addition. We talked about the trade already with Deebo Samuel. And so I just think that the football team in general is set up for Jayden Daniels to take a year two step and not take a slump. But anyway, you guys let me know in the comments here what you guys are thinking about Jayden Daniels. Is he going to take that next step here for us? Is this team set to get to the Super Bowl, possibly win it? I'd love to hear what your thoughts are. All right, guys. As we always say, go Commanders. I'll see you on the next one. All right, peace.